2020 was a year that changed everything. The way we see each other and the world. But even before COVID-19 disrupted our lives, we knew it was time to boldly step toward a better future, where crises give way to resilience and all people thrive. Drawing on 6 decades of positive impact in places made vulnerable by poverty, disasters, and conflict, global communities and PCI have merged to form one dynamic organization. In doing so, we expand the reach and scale of our proven programs to tens of millions of people in more than 35 countries. Over the years, our work has grown from building houses and promoting healthier families across the United States to delivering humanitarian assistance, sustainable development, and financial inclusion around the world. Through it all, we have actively collaborated as partners for good, recognizing locally driven and community-centered solutions are critical to real and lasting progress. Yes, change can be unexpected and difficult at times, but change also brings opportunity. By striving for it in service of greater possibilities on the horizon, we move closer to a more just, prosperous, and equitable world.
Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from. And I'm happy to welcome you back to DRC Mining Week's next session of the day, part of our year-end celebration. Today's session is titled Social Change for a Better Future, focus on the Zahabu Safi project. This session is sponsored by Global Communities and USAID. Thank you to our sponsor, and if you want to engage with them, please go visit their company profile where you'll find more information after the session. Now, before we get into the heart of the discussion, I'd like to run you through a couple of minor housekeeping rules. First, the session is interactive and we really want to hear from you. So please don't hesitate throughout the conversation to post your questions to our panelists in the chat box that you'll find on the right side of your screen. And our moderator will try and address as many as possible with our panelists. Lastly, if you have any difficulty by clicking on the Help Desk button that you'll find on top of your screen. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to today's moderator, Nikki Duncan. She is a technical director for Global Communities, and she'll be leading the panel discussion today. Nikki, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Hello.
I think we have a little issue with Nikki's camera. There she is. Nikki,
hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sabrina. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers of DRC Mining Week for inviting us to present today. My name is Nikki Duncan, and I work for Global Communities, but I also serve as the Chief of Party or Head of Project for the USAID Zahabu Safi or Clean Gold Project. We are implementing in DRC. We have an office based in Goma, and we are working in 3 provinces across Eastern DRC. The goal of our project really is to create a commercially viable, responsibly sourced artisanal gold supply chain or supply chains that originate from Eastern DRC. Global Communities is the main implementing partner, but we also are working with Levin Sources, who is a responsible minerals trade consultancy based in the UK. Global Communities, we are based in the US. And we're also working with Better Chain and RCS Global, who are supporting us with due diligence and traceability services in Manima, Ituri, and South Kivu, which is where we're working. Of course, USAID is a key partner and financier, but through this project, we've really been collaborating, and you'll hear from one of our partners from USAID today. Quickly about Zahabu Safi, we're a 5-year program. We're just starting year 4 of 5, so we have about 2 years left in the project. And we have 3 objectives, really to increase the demand for and co-investment in responsibly sourced artisanal gold supply chains that originate from Eastern DRC. So we're doing a lot of buyer engagement and working to identify and engage refiners and jewelers who are interested in sourcing responsibly from Eastern Congo. Second objective is to increase the supply or exports of responsibly sourced artisanal gold from Eastern DRC. So we're doing quite a bit of trade facilitation, export facilitation, working closely with DRC-based exporters, comptoirs, to actually get gold out of the country, collaborating closely with the government of DRC, using the ATOA national traceability system, and our traceability and due diligence partners are supporting us in that. And then our final objective is really to provide support at the artisanal mine sites themselves, working closely with cooperatives and helping them to improve the way they operate, improve the way they govern their enterprise, so that ultimately miners can benefit from their labor. Just a quick overview of what we've achieved on the project to date. We have 3 supply chains that we're working with, or supporting, I should say, in 3 provinces I mentioned, Ituri, Maniema, and South Kivu. We are working with 3 potential exporters, and what we're going to talk about today really is the work that we've done to help facilitate really positive and mutually beneficial commercial relationships between artisanal miners and large scale or industrial mining companies, because we know in Eastern DRC that a lot of artisanal mining does or often takes place within industrial concession properties. We have been testing 2 approaches to risk identification and mitigation at the mine site level, working with Better Chain and RCS, where we're getting daily monitoring and information on risks at the sites that we're supporting. These risks are being monitored and analyzed, and we're working with our entire consortium and our cooperatives and exporters all throughout the supply chain to ensure that their operations align with the OECD due diligence guidance for responsible sourcing from conflict-affected and high-risk areas. We use monthly corrective action plans that are developed from all of that daily risk data to help the supply chain actors implement corrective actions so that their production and exports align with OECD. And we're working very closely with 2 banks and to increase access to finance to artisanal miners and upstream actors. We have an 8-member refiner community of practice and a new jewelry community that's launched. So we're really excited about what we've accomplished to date in terms of bringing the supply chains actors together and really generating quite a bit of interest in responsible sourcing from Eastern Congo. So with that, I will turn to today's topic, which is really, as I mentioned, really highlighting the successes that our project has had in facilitating really positive relationships and commercially mutually beneficial relationships between industrial actors and large-scale mining actors and artisanal supply chain actors. And I wanted to kick off the discussion with our partner from USAID, who has really been integral into how this project was co-created and how it's being implemented. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Benjamin Skolnick, who is the Natural Resources Officer for USAID based in Kinshasa, who's an important partner to us daily, to just tell you a little bit about USAID's work and USAID's investment in the mining sector. So welcome, Benjamin.
Thank you, Nikki. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Great. So Benjamin, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about USAID for those who may not be familiar, but also in that, maybe tell us also about what USAID is doing, some of the investments that you're making in DRC in the mining industry.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Well, first of all, I want to thank you and global communities as well as the organizers today. It's been quite a journey just to get here. As you mentioned, it's been 3 years, and I'm very, very happy that you're on screen today to share some of those results to date. USAID is the United States Agency for International Development. As Nikki mentioned, I work in Kinshasa. I'm a diplomat. I'm a foreign service officer, so I spent several years in Congo, and then I came last from South Africa, where I worked in the Power Africa initiative on bringing electricity to sub-Saharan Africa. So it's a real pleasure to be here in Congo at a moment in time where you see potential and actual real growth in the economy, and there's a real synergy between the United States goals for increased transparency and stability, driving economic growth in this country, and programs like this in the mining sector. We work in sort of two main ways, I would say, in the mining sector. One is the industrial side, where we have a flagship program called the Integrated Governance Activity, implemented by DAI, where we are helping the entités territoriales décentralisées, so these local territorial entities who receive mining royalties from industrial mines, to govern those finances in a transparent way and also develop plans. So that is a wonderful source of income for local communities to drive their own development. And it's also a success story for our industrial mines, who can watch communities pay for their own infrastructure development rather than being asked to build roads and schools and so on. So that's a real win-win-win, I think, and one of my favorite activities personally. And that's across many different provinces in Congo where we're working. The second way is in helping to formalize the artisanal mining sector. We have several activities there. We host the Public-Private Alliance for Responsible Minerals Trade, which is the U.S. government's platform to partner with private sector, civil society, and academia. You have the largest companies in the world, from the U.S. Fortune 500, Google, Apple, Intel, Microsoft, etc., who have to follow the U.S. Dodd-Frank legislation and source their minerals responsibly, conflict-free from the Great Lakes region. And so that alliance provides an opportunity for those companies to learn and invest into these programs in Congo. We also have the sustainable mine site validation. I'm very pleased to announce, you may have seen in the news, we've been working closely with the Minister of Mines, who spoke earlier today, on the validation of over 200 mine sites in North and South Kivu. We have, through our partner PACT, we have been working with local communities and mine site inspectors, helping to actually train those communities and the inspectors to carry out the qualification of mine sites so that they adhere to these national and international standards on conflict-free minerals and reach export. I would say about $40 million of U.S. government investment since 2017 has gone into these efforts. And if you look at the 3 Ts, which is tin, tantalum, tungsten, on an artisanal side, over $750 million have been exported legally. So we can really say a lot has been accomplished on the 3 Ts. There's still lots to be done. We're aware of all kinds of issues with those minerals that persist. But the real attention, we focused and pivoted to gold. Thanks to your program, Nikki, we're making some progress on that. We have qualified, or the minister just validated a number of gold sites in Kivus. There's a lot of gold that's leaving the country through illicit trade. And so we're really trying to make a difference there. And I'm looking forward to discussing that more today.
Great. Just to round out your comments, Benjamin, maybe tell us what's unique about USAID's development strategy that potentially further suggests there could be synergies between artisanal mining and industrial mining companies.
Thanks. USAID really looks right now at industrial mines as well as protected areas, the national parks, as a source of stability. Some industrial mines, as we know, and national parks have persisted in the face of decades of conflict, and we really are looking to partner in tangible ways with those actors, industrial mines as well as these national parks, and find opportunities to drive sustainable development. And so those investments that industrial mines are making that are synonymous with USAID investments, we really have an opportunity to grow, and we have a number of memorandums of understanding with industrial mines around Congo, and we're working to bring that into tangible results for the country.
Great, thank you, Benjamin. And I know you would share my sentiment that if there are any industrial actors working in gold in particular, we would love to engage you and explore what a partnership could look like under our project. So thanks, Benjamin, for your contributions today.
You're welcome.
I'd like to invite the next panelist, who is Mr. Francois Bodica, who's representing WBK Investments. I'll let him explain the acronym, but I had also mentioned to the crowd or the audience that the next, our interaction will be in French. And so you'll likely be seeing some subtitling, so you can follow us. Merci, Monsieur Bodica. Bienvenue. Je voulais commencer, peut-être si vous voulez, avec une présentation de votre entreprise, et peut-être vous pouvez nous dire où vous opérez en RDC, s'il vous plaît.
Très bien.
Monsieur Bodica,
Oh,
est-ce que vous m'entendez? Allô, Monsieur Bodica? Okay, we've lost connection, so if it can be a little patient, let's see if we can get him back. Maybe in the meantime, let's switch panelists and maybe give Mr. Bodica some time to reconnect with us. Clément, I'd like to invite Clément Kayanga to the discussion. Clément is a dear colleague of mine. He also works for Global Communities and is supporting our project as a monitoring, evaluation, and learning specialist. And he is based in our office in Goma. So Clément, welcome.
thank you, Nikki.
Great to have you. Clément, I'm wondering if maybe before we hear from Monsieur Bodica, if you can give us a little bit of a summary of what we have been doing as a project to facilitate these partnerships between artisanal miners and industrial actors, and some of the maybe the lessons learned in those activities.
Okay, thank you so much for the flow, Nikki. And this activity, creating and building sustainable partnerships between industrial large-scale mining actors and artisanal miners is part of this effort that you described before of aligning artisanal mining activities to what the OECD requirements are in terms of due diligence. One among the one among the conditions and the steps that need to be cleared on this journey, on this roadmap to conformity to OECD due diligence requirement is that if we have artisanal miners, if they are not working on a zone d'exploitation artisanale, or if their operations fall on an area covered by a mine title, we need to ensure there is a formal agreement between this mine title owner and these artisanal miners. But given these mining actors, industrial, artisanal, all of them are commercial actors and they are working for profit, we needed to come up with a package that ensure both parties are winners in this deal. Okay, so we needed to demonstrate the interests artisanal miners make if they find a common understanding with these industrial actors, and we needed also to demonstrate to the industrial actors what are the benefits they are going to make in case they happen to find an agreement. And we were it was a good luck, and we were very happy that in both cases, both in the side of the artisanal and in the side of the industrial large scales, we got positive feedbacks, and all of them got convinced of the real interest they have to do if they find a common agreement. And now today we are in a situation where we have an agreement between artisanal miners and industrial large scale miners that have a common agreement, and they are working all of them towards one and common goal, getting to export formally according to what the requirements of the DRC mining law are, and according to the minimum requirements from the OECD in terms of minerals sourced from conflict affected areas. And it is a matter of pride for us that we have these actors that are today speaking the same voice, while we know that in the recent past, about 5 years ago, it was a bit tremendous in this area with artisanal miners getting into clashes with these industrial miners.
Yes.
That's what.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, one of the development objectives of our program really is to produce or facilitate the trade of conflict gold that's responsibly sourced, and part of that is gold that is sourced in a way that does not contribute to conflict. And we tend to think of the larger scale conflicts between armed groups and governments, but intra-community conflict as well. And so I think one of the things that we've learned, as you mentioned, is that these relationships have helped to reduce the potential for conflict at the community level. And so maybe just the last question before we switch back to Mr. Bodica, because I think he's with us, is, what were our key takeaways, would you say, in terms of who we worked with, how we got there, how did those partnerships, how did we get that together? What was required of the project, of the actors themselves to get to the point of agreement?
To be honest, it was not an easy step. Okay, we had to get involved different stakeholders, including the local civil societies. We had to vote in this process some local authorities at the province level, and once all of them understood the opportunity behind this collaboration, they were, and based on the previous, on the really recent incidents between all these industrials and artisanal, they were like encouraging and pushing us, okay, to go to these actors. And in some cases, officials were the ones sensitizing artisanal miners, showing them that this is an opportunity we have to build long-term collaboration between you and industrial miners. So you are looking at each other no longer as opponent or antagonist, but in terms of collaborators and partners. And the officials on one side played a key and determinant role in this, but also the civil society played a big role in this, in addressing and in achieving this.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much, Clément, for that context. And you will join us in a few minutes when we get to the discussion. But thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you are doing for USAID's Zahabu Safi Clean Gold program. With that, let's see if we can ask Mr. Bodica to join us again. Bienvenue, Monsieur Bodica.
Oui, je suis là.
OK. Donc, Monsieur Bodica, s'il vous plaît, est-ce que vous pouvez présenter votre entreprise et peut-être vous pouvez nous dire où vous opérez en RDC?
Merci beaucoup. Bon, mon entreprise, c'est la société WBK SARL. Bon, nous opérons dans l'est de la République du Congo, plus précisément au Maniema, bon, et dans le territoire de Kasongo. Bon. Alors, notre société a été créée en 1994. Bon, on avait commencé les activités comme une société d'import-export. Mais avec l'expérience que nous avons vécue à l'extérieur, notamment en France et en Afrique du Sud, nous avions vu qu'il y avait beaucoup de sociétés minières privées, ce qui n'existait pas ici chez nous. Et c'est comme ça qu'en 2000, nous sommes revenus au pays proposer aux autorités si nous pouvions créer des sociétés privées. Et en 2001, le Parlement avait finalement voté la loi autorisant la création des sociétés minières privées dans les endroits où ne se trouvaient pas des sociétés publiques. Ensuite, nous avons, en 2003, on a élaboré le code minier, et en 2005, il y a eu l'élaboration du règlement minier. En 2006, il y a eu la création du cadastre minier. Et c'est en 2006 que nous avons obtenu nos premiers permis de recherche. Et nous avons commencé des recherches qui ont abouti à trouver des ressources pour qu'en 2017, nous ayons demandé au gouvernement de passer à la transformation des permis de recherche en permis d'exploitation, d'abord des petites mines. Et ces permis nous ont été accordés en 2018. Malheureusement, à ce moment-là, il y a eu des conflits au niveau de chez notre voisin, la société Banro. Il y avait des conflits là-bas entre la société et des milices, des communautés locales. Et alors, ce qui a fait que ce conflit, comme nous étions voisins, nos partenaires australiens qui travaillaient avec nous à l'époque, ils ont eu peur, et sans nous prévenir, ils avaient quitté, et sans nous prévenir, ils sont partis. Bon. Voilà, en fait, notre société, donc, nous sommes retrouvés, et après, il y a eu, en 2019, il y a eu invasion massive de notre concession par les creuseurs. En fait, il y avait une grande partie de nos travailleurs qui, étant restés seuls, sans encadrement, ils ont commencé à faire l'exploitation artisanale.
Okay.
Voilà un peu la présentation de notre société.
Merci, merci M. Botika. Pourquoi WBK a choisi de collaborer avec les trésors, les mineurs artisanaux qui travaillent en fait dans une manière illégale sur votre site plutôt que les déménager?
Oui, en fait, notre choix était un choix tout à fait stratégique. Cette invasion s'était traduite par un grand nombre, parce qu'à côté des travailleurs, il y a eu les jeunes des localités, donc villages avoisinants, et nous avions dans la concession plus de 3000 creuseurs. Alors, on avait le choix entre demander à l'État de les chasser, ou bien il fallait composer avec eux. Alors, pour éviter le conflit avec ces jeunes, et surtout ce qui se passe dans le Nord Kivu, dans l'Ituri, nous avions opté de travailler avec eux, de collaborer avec les creuseurs. Et comme quand nous avions commencé le travail, on leur avait demandé d'organiser une coopérative, et c'était à travers cette coopérative que nous étions en train de recruter tous nos travailleurs. C'est à ce moment-là que nous, comme ils étaient maintenant venus nombreux, nous leur avons demandé maintenant de signer un accord pour pouvoir collaborer. Et c'est à ce moment-là qu'on vous a contacté. On a contacté Global Community parce que, bon, on avait appris à travers les journaux, les nouvelles, que vous pouviez nous aider à les encadrer, à les organiser, pour éviter qu'il y ait des dérapages et qu'on n'arrive pas au conflit. Et c'est comme ça que vous nous avez rejoints et nous sommes en train de les organiser et ça se passe très bien.
Ok. Peut-être vous pouvez nous expliquer comment ce partenariat influence-t-il votre modèle d'industrialisation planifié?
Bon, le partenariat, c'est pas la présence des creuseurs ou bien des coopératives artisanales, c'est pas toujours négatif. C'est aussi positif dans ce sens que, bon, quand nous faisions des forages, tout ce que nous faisions comme travaux de recherche était publié, surtout en bourse en Australie et même au Canada, mais cela ne suffisait pas. C'est-à-dire pour mobiliser facilement des financements, parce que des partenaires ou bien des institutions financières hésitaient toujours. On se disait, bon, oui, il y a des résultats, mais est-ce que ces résultats sont durables? Est-ce qu'il y a vraiment de l'or? Mais maintenant, bon, avec la présence, comme on a autorisé les creuseurs artisanaux de travailler, avec la production artisanale, quand on leur dit, voilà, bon, il y a une production artisanale, par exemple, d'autant, et ce qui prouve qu'il y a ce que nous avons comme résultat, c'est vraiment effectif. Et nous avons constaté effectivement qu'il y a une grande adhésion maintenant des institutions financières et même des grands investisseurs qui nous approchent maintenant pour qu'on puisse travailler ensemble. Donc, ça, c'était vraiment très, très positif. Et avec l'apport des Global Community aussi, bon, nous espérons que nous allons maintenant produire de l'or propre. On a pu écarter tout ce qu'il y avait comme d'irrégulier, des activités irrégulières qui se passaient avec les négociants et des enfants et tout ça. Nous avons maintenant un travail correct qui se fait sur place et nous comptons maintenant réaliser une production de l'or propre que nous pouvons qui pourra être certifié et qui pourra être vendu sur le marché non seulement national, mais aussi sur le marché international.
La dernière question, M. Bodica. Quelle est votre vision de la façon dont votre entreprise soutient la communauté autour de votre concession et comment votre partenariat avec les mineurs, les creuseurs, la coopérative vous aide-t-il à réaliser cette vision?
D'abord, le fait est là, le fait que nous avions fait en faisant l'exploration et en faisant les forages, ça a attiré l'attention sur l'existence de l'or. Vous pouvez aussi comprendre que même s'il y avait dans le temps des petites exploitations dans les rivières, les gens ne savaient pas que dans la terre ferme, il y avait de l'or. Bon, maintenant, avec ce que nous avons fait comme exploration, ça a d'abord ça a éveillé, et puis ça a éveillé l'attention des communautés locales qui avaient de la richesse dans la terre ferme. Bon. Et avec la collaboration, avec la coopérative, eh bien, nous avons créé un climat d'entente avec les communautés locales et nous espérons maintenant, parce que nous allons y amener maintenant des équipements modernes pour augmenter la production. Nous voulons avec cette production pouvoir avoir des recettes suffisantes, non seulement pour payer les taxes de l'État, mais aussi pour avoir des économies et assister la communauté locale pour développer les infrastructures, notamment l'habitat, développer aussi les écoles, les structures sanitaires comme les hôpitaux et les routes. Et aussi, nous avons un programme avec la coopérative pour préparer ce que nous appelons ici chez nous l'après-mine, c'est-à-dire c'est un programme d'organiser l'agriculture qui va permettre aussi à la communauté locale d'être complètement indépendant et de se suffire à elle-même sur place. Donc, on se complète.
Merci beaucoup, M. Bodica. Merci à WBK pour votre exemple aux autres, comment on peut faciliter cette sorte de partenariat. Donc, maintenant, on va faire une transition encore en anglais et on va accepter les questions de l'audience. So we will now transition to question and answer session and a group discussion with the panelists, all panelists. And I see I'm going to invite Clément and Benjamin back to join us. If they could turn on their cameras. And we have one question already, and Benjamin, I believe this would be a great one for you to answer. What role is and will renewable energy play where global communities and effectively really where USAID is operating in DRC and elsewhere in Africa?
Well, that's a big question. I think from the USAID standpoint, there's a lot where we can do on energy following COP26. And our work with the DRC government to create legislation that established 2 new regulatory agencies, ANSER and ARE. Those are agencies that work on rural electrification and providing sort of that framework for investment in the energy sector. So that's something to be watching in both the industrial and artisanal side of things. On our industrial side, we can have much faster solutions than large dams, for example, that take decades to build. We have run-of-river hydro that's already producing electricity in Eastern Congo. We have large solar arrays, mini grids that have been established in Congo. So we can do a lot of that work quickly. We're working with the private sector There's a renewable energy association called ASERD that has now over 30 members, just following about, I think, maybe 2 years, 3 years of work. So we have companies that can immediately start delivering power at a sort of a larger scale to provide energy to industrial companies. So we're very happy to make that connection to companies that may be listening in today. But then on the energy access side for households, artisanal miners, for people living in the middle of the forest, it's amazing to be an American living in a country that we're living the same problem. We have renewable energy. You can put a solar panel on the top of your home, be it in the United States or in Congo, and that's all new technology that didn't exist 10 years ago at the same level that it does today. So for artisanal miners and this program, and what Francois Boudica was just talking about, artisanal miners ideally would become industrial, sort of semi-industrial companies with energy inputs, so as to gain an actual real livelihood. We know that artisanal miners don't make enough money to really live above the poverty line. So energy is going to be an important input there. But then also, for to all artisanal miners probably should not be artisanal miners for the rest of their lives. Many artisanal miners would much prefer to do something else, be it agriculture, become a school teacher, but that also requires energy. The buildings that the industrial mines are helping to build, the country is building schools, health clinics, that requires energy. So I think we're also looking to partner in a broader way to drive that sort of alternative livelihoods and alternative growth away from artisanal mining where it doesn't make sense. So I hope that gives you sort of a framework for how we're hoping to address the multifaceted challenge.
Thank you, Benjamin. And for global communities in DRC and elsewhere, I mean, we really support USAID's vision for energy for productive uses, as we say. And so we know that energy is necessary for many economic development initiatives, and also value addition, right? I think that is important for countries that like DRC that produce commodities, raw commodities, and we know that you get a larger return on your on sort of your products if you actually are adding value in country. And I think energy is going to be critical, whether we're talking about adding value to gold, whether it's a gold refinery in DRC, which I know the ministry is really supportive of, or if you're talking about an agro-industrial center. All of this requires energy, and I think renewable opportunities are abound. So I'll go to the second question, which was why a focus on gold specifically from the project, USAID and global communities? Are there particular community considerations for gold that do not apply to other minerals, or is it where the need, or is it because that's where the need is most present compared to other minerals, for example, like cobalt? I definitely have some thoughts on that, but I don't know, Benjamin, I think from a global standpoint, you might have some thoughts as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to just offer a few words. From USAID, as I mentioned at the top of the session, we have seen conflict minerals is outlined in the U.S. Dodd-Frank legislation, and that includes the three T's and gold. We did see some progress on 3 T's, and we wanted to make an effort to advance gold. If you look at the mine sites in Eastern Congo, you may estimate about 2,000 to 3,000 artisanal mine sites. It's an ephemeral number that changes year to year, but we actually are funding another activity to support the mapping of these artisanal mine sites, and that information is made public through cooperation with the government of DRC. And the majority of those sites are gold sites. If you look at the amount of gold that is being lost from from Congo, it's a very significant source of potential tax revenue. It's also a significant source of conflict. Probably some research shows maybe half of gold sites are affected by persistent conflict and armed group activity. So if you want stability in Eastern Congo, I think you need to address the illicit gold trade. And so that's why this project exists. Now, renewable energy, and we know cobalt, 60% of the world's cobalt is estimated to be in Congo. That is a hot topic right now in the news, New York Times, etc. It doesn't mean that's not important. And in fact, I think any contribution to formalizing artisanal mining with the work that Global Communities is doing, for example, around due diligence and traceability of minerals, that's helping combat child labor, reduce sexual violence at mine sites, presence of military actors. All of that will also have spillover effects on cobalt. You've seen the Ministry of Mines held a conference on child labor earlier this year. We had partners there who are actually working on gold, but that issue is persistent in cobalt as well. So I think we would love to make progress on cobalt, but we really feel strongly about following through on this program on gold.
Thanks, Benjamin. And I don't know, Clément, if you have any thoughts on another question that's come through around, if any thoughts to add towards what Benjamin said around gold, and particularly given the conflict, the relationship with conflict in the East. But also there's a second question on the amount of gold that's being produced at Zahabu Safi supported sites. And I'll tackle the export question. So feel free to jump in or chime in, Clément.
No, Nikki, I just wanted also to reinforce on the fact that, okay, good. Most, as Benjamin said, most mine sites that are more susceptible to conflict are either connected with gold or exactly the treaties, and that is probably because of the basic logistic needed, for example, to move gold from one area to another area. So there is a big potential for fueling conflicts, not maybe with a political agenda, but only just a wish just to control and to make money in an area outside the national process. So because all of this, you not see anyone claiming among those that in the past had been involved in conflict mineral, claiming, okay, I want to go up to and take over the country. No, they just want to have control over a very limited area, and it is most of the time the area where artisanal gold mining activities are popping in, because it is rare to see all these conflicts going in agricultural areas, for example. Okay, it is only all around all these mining communities, and all this, for example, community unrest raised by the opposition between industrial and artisanal miners is also part of this perpetual conflict, ongoing situation going on here. So this, in addition to being a requirement from OECD in terms of compliance to due diligence, it's also a contribution to creating a peaceful and a stabilized community approach where everyone lives in peace and everyone is gaining.
I will. Peut-être on peut poser la question à Monsieur Bodica. I'll ask the question to Mr. Bodica about export prospects. Mr. Bodica's site is one of the sites that we're supporting under the project, one of 3 potential exporters we're working with. Monsieur Bodica, est-ce que vous avez une vision pour combien d'or la productivité et le montant de l'or vous envisionnez d'exporter de votre concession, la potentialité des exports de l'or à ce stade?
À ce stade, avec la production artisanale, on peut dire qu'on peut miser sur 10 kilos par mois, mais nous comptons dans un bref avenir, bon, pas un bref avenir, très rapidement, parce que nous sommes en train de nous organiser pour cela, amener des équipements pour commencer d'abord la production des petites mines, et nous espérons que d'ici 3 à 6 mois, nous pouvons produire entre 50 voire dans 6 mois commencer à produire 100 kilos d'or par mois au moins.
Mm-hmm. So just a quick summary. I saw the subtitles go underneath, but Mr. Bodica was just explaining that right now there's about a potential for production and export of 10 kilos of gold per month from the artisanal collaborators, but they are planning to make equipment investments, and in the next 3 to 6 months hope to get to about 30 kilos per month, 30 to 50, and then by 6 months hopefully close to 100 kilos per month with the industrialization equipment that they're planning to invest in. Benjamin, maybe a question for you. This particular program is focused on gold, as we discussed. Does USAID envisage other programming expanding to other commodities? Maybe you can't say at this point, but if there is that vision.
Well, I should mention there's ample opportunity to partner with USAID across many sectors. We invest $700 million a year in Congo. A large part of that is on the humanitarian relief side and on the health sector. We have investments in education and peace and security activities, democracy and governance. And I would say on other commodities, we have a new activity called Invest, which is looking to attract investment in the agricultural sector. We're helping with all kinds of work to promote agriculture, and many of those programs are around industrial and artisanal mining areas. So please feel free to reach out to me or my USAID, and we're always looking productive partners.
Great. I will now turn to kind of close out the session. This has been a really rich discussion. And maybe if any of you want to, this is an opportunity to make any closing statements. Peut-être on peut commencer avec Monsieur Bodica. Monsieur Bodica, on va terminer la session dans quelques minutes et c'est une opportunité peut-être de faire des commentaires, de clôturer votre contribution. Est-ce que vous avez les dernières contributions à faire avant de terminer la session?
Oui, en fait, d'abord, nous tenons, en tant que WBK, nous tenons à remercier Global Community parce que son apport a été vraiment déterminant pour qu'on arrive à mettre de l'ordre et à faire comprendre, c'était pas facile, de faire comprendre à la communauté qu'il faut travailler proprement et puis travailler de façon organisée. Bon. Et alors, avec ce travail organisé et l'entente qu'on a avec les communautés locales, nous comptons non seulement développer la petite et moyenne production avec production de l'or, mais nous comptons surtout développer une grande industrie, construire une grande mine pour produire beaucoup d'or qui pourrait permettre de non seulement développer la communauté, mais aussi participer au développement de la province et du pays. Donc ça, c'est très, très important et c'est notre objectif et notre vision, développer localement, construire une grande mine et puis participer au développement du pays.
Merci beaucoup. Monsieur Bodica was, as you saw, was just commenting and thanking global communities and USAID for the partnership and working with local communities to help and the miners on this site to help establish some order and to kind of help them understand the ways of working that align with international standards. WBK definitely has a vision for industrializing, becoming a small scale mining company and growing. And I'd just like to say we're really grateful to be working with you on your journey. Clément, do you have any closing contributions to this session?
Yeah, maybe the closing would be just to answer this question. There is one.
I think we might have lost you, Clément. This might be, I think you might be responding to the question on how the project is specifically supporting miners with regards to health and safety. I can certainly answer it, but I think it would be more compelling coming from you.
I'm sorry, I dropped
no
off one minute. I wanted just to answer this question about how miners, artisanal miners, are improving health and working conditions for miners.
Please.
I just wanted to note that this is one among the requirements from the OECD, because for artisanal gold to be certified responsible, it needs to have been sourced in conditions that respect the legal requirement from the country, human rights, environment, and acceptable occupational and health safety. So all this is included in this package that is presented in the form of the corrective action plan, saying that we noted this on this supply chain, we need to correct it, this, like this, like this, like this, in order to meet this requirement from the OECD requirement in terms of responsible sourcing of minerals from conflict-affected areas. So
great.
With that, I want to thank also the participants also.
Thank you, Clément. It's a good opportunity to give recognition to our partners, 11 Sources, but particularly Better Chain and RCS, who've been close partners with us, working at the mine sites, helping us identify risk. Justice Plus, also a local a nonprofit based in Ituri that has been working closely with Better Chain to identify occupational health and safety risks and working with us to develop corrective actions with the cooperatives to mitigate those risks. So final words, Benjamin, to close us out of this session.
Well, I'm just very excited. This session really marks a paradigm shift. When I first arrived in Congo, it was more what you would hear as industrial mines and artisanal miners going head to head, always in conflict. And I think this project is really identifying actors who want to work together. A lot of the support that you're providing is just explaining the rights to miners, artisanal miners, what their rights are and what they are not allowed to do. In terms of occupational health and safety, it's really phenomenal, giving identification cards to cooperative members so that their industrial mine knows who should be there and who should not be there. We're supporting, mining police through another U.S. government activity. So getting rid of military and making sure then mine site inspectors and the mining police know what they should be doing. So all of this is really contributing to a much more holistic, productive view for artisanal mining. Again, it's a huge resource of tax revenue that could drive development in this country. But it's in so many thousands of places. I think you haven't seen as much attention on this in the past. It's much easier to go after one or two industrial mines. Yeah. So just thank you so much for having this session and including USA. Thank you.
Great, thank you, and thank you to all the panelists.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks so much, Nikki, and to all our panel. I really love this conversation, the collaboration, the paradigm shift between large-scale mining and the artisanal miners. That was very interesting. So for our audience, thank you so much for watching. Please note that this session will still be on the platform if you want to rewatch it, or also if you want to share it with your network. I want to say a big thank you to Global Communities and to USAID for sponsoring this session and taking part in our DRC Mining Week Year End celebration. So we have an interview coming up now for your next session. So please stay tuned and click on the Live Now button to watch it. Thank you so much again, and stay tuned with us.
2020 was a year that changed everything, the way we see each other and the world. But even before COVID-19 disrupted our lives, we knew it was time to boldly step toward a better future, where crises give way to resilience and all people thrive. Drawing on 6 decades of positive impact in places made vulnerable by poverty, disasters, and conflict, Global Communities and PCI have merged to form one dynamic organization. In doing so, we expand the reach and scale of our proven programs to tens of millions of people in more than 35 countries. Over the years, our work has grown from building houses and promoting healthier families across the United States to delivering humanitarian assistance, sustainable development, and financial inclusion around the world. Through it all, we have actively collaborated as partners for good, recognizing locally driven and community-centered solutions are critical to real and lasting progress. Yes, change can be unexpected and difficult at times, but change also brings opportunity. By striving for it in service of greater possibilities on the horizon, we move closer to a more just, prosperous, and equitable world.